Welcome back to the Padilla Family Homestead. Today we are going to be talking about cookbooks and kind of what my favorite cookbooks are, the different category of cookbooks that I have. So my cookbooks that I use have changed over the years depending on where I am in my cooking journey, and also how I use my cookbooks has kind of changed over the years as well. So when I very first started cooking, I got my cookbooks primarily from Goodwill. I got them super cheap, and let's see. And I would go through because I wanted to learn how to cook, and I would put these little tabs all over all the different recipes that I wanted to try. Now most of these I haven't tried, but it gave me inspiration on things that I wanted to do. So I wanted to try to do healthier ones, and I was able to get the Weight Watchers new complete cookbook back then. This is just, I haven't gotten rid of this one. I don't really look at this one in a long time. I haven't looked at this one in a long time, but it has things like garlic roasted chicken with gravy, and it teaches you how to roast the chicken and all of that. So if you're just starting out and looking for healthier recipes, that may be a good option, but it's kind of what I did. I got the Betty Crocker cookbook, Better Homes and Gardens Test Kitchen favorites. It was a lot of fun going through looking at recipes in there. This cookbook has probably been our most used, even to this date, and that's the Pillsbury Complete Book of Baking. It is so used, it literally is falling apart. My daughter actually put it back into page number order. And this is where we learned cookie recipes and scones and all kinds of different things when we were starting to learn how to bake. And even if she wants to make something that's gluten-free, we'll take recipes out of here and then substitute gluten-free 1-for-1 flour for just about any recipe in here, and it's worked wonders for making things gluten-free. So the Pillsbury Complete Book of Baking was a great one for starting out. The other one I more recently got, because I want to look into, is the Joy of Cooking cookbook. It's huge. I haven't gone through this one really, but it talks about the difference in between grilled tomatoes, slow roasted tomatoes, all the different foods, and there's tons of information in here on how to cook things. And some of the stuff I'll never use, but there's a lot of inspiration and technical skills in here, which is amazing. So that's kind of where I started, were the basics, right? I also worked outside the home, was a single mom when I very first started doing all this stuff, and I needed quick meals for coming home in the afternoon. That was the only saving grace. And so I'm going to show you books I got to try to help me with concepts for cooking quick dinners. Okay, so the ones I bought for that were the Cooking Light 5 Ingredients 15-minute cookbook. I did make a few things throughout here, and it really gave me inspiration for things that you could cook quickly and still have somewhat healthy. So that was a good book. I did the Rachel Ray 30-minute meals, cooking around the clock, and I made a few in here, but more than anything in here, I took ideas out of these on how to do, and I actually watched her show for a while, which was fun, on how to do stuff that was quicker. The Big Book of 30-Minute Dinners by Better Homes and Gardens. Again, came through here and got a bunch of ideas and tweaked them to what worked for us. Now, recently, now that I am focusing less on just home cooked, but more on things that are nourishing to the body, and really focusing on dealing with different diet situations. With last year with my husband doing low sugar, we're still sticking with lower sugar. With type 2 diabetes, it's not as strict now because he beat that, but we're still keeping it in line. I'm having to do low sodium right now, and my daughter does gluten-free. And so we have very big differences in our diets. If you heard something, she's hiding back behind me. So we have very big differences in our diet, and so I don't do a lot of one pot meals anymore unless it's the crock pot. I try to do meals that are protein, the carb, your vegetables, and have it all broken out. And so people can choose what they're going to eat out of that, make their plate. And my husband likes to go more protein heavy. I like to go more veggie heavy, right? And we can make our plate accordingly. A one pot meal, it's harder to do that. And it's also harder to control the seasonings the same way. So I went away from a lot of those cookbooks more in the recent years. And I also really got into home milled flours and different types of flours, getting into the nutritional aspect of stuff. I'm trying to go into more garden produced foods, things like that. And so as I've done that, I'm going to show you some of the cookbooks that have been a huge help for me in that. Handmade by Melissa K. Norris is one of my most used books. I get my, it's actually breaks right open to the flaky buttermilk biscuit recipe. That's why it just holds open. So there's tons of great recipes in here. There's things about making crackers and pie crust, and this is pretty much what I use now for those. I don't use those other cookbooks as much now. I wanted to make sure I shared those though, because they are a good starting point for somebody who's just learning how to cook. This one helps me because she uses ancient grains in some of her stuff, and she talks about when you use freshly milled flour and when it's all-purpose better and things like that. And so she touches on some of that. She touches on using buttermilk, how to make buttermilk, all kinds of stuff in this book. I highly suggest this book. It has been a lifesaver for me. She does have some of this stuff on her YouTube channel, some of the recipes, and because I tried some of the recipes, I wanted to make sure I had a hard copy. YouTube is great, internet is great, and I love to get recipes off of both of those places. However, if you don't have power or you're in a position where you don't have access to the internet, having a hard copy of a recipe is amazing. So, and I like to support people where I can. So buying the book is a good thing. So this is a good one. The other one for bread for me, when I got into sourdough, was the Artisan Sourdough Made Simple by Emily Raffa. This has been a sourdough game changer for me. I don't have that many fails in sourdough because I really follow the instructions in here. I weigh everything. I have done a lot of the recipes out of here. Absolutely love them. And then I can take these recipes and change them and make them my own how we like them. But it's a great starting point in understanding how much of each type of thing that you need, how much liquid, how much flour, so forth, that you need to how the sourdough works. So I'm still trying out a bunch of recipes in here, but there are some amazing ones, and it allows me to be able to still go through and use some of my home milled flours, like the rustic pumpernickel in here is a rye bread that is delicious. And so it's just fun to be able to go through, try new things, figure things out. The waffles, this book is really beat up at the waffle page, but these waffles are great. And so this book is, like, again, one of my most used. It's always out. It was not on my bookshelf. it was out, ready for me to use again. So this one I highly suggest if you're thinking about doing sourdough, I would grab this. Now, one that I just got that I haven't dug into, but I've heard some good things about, and I'm going to try it, is the gluten-free sourdough. So this one we haven't touched it yet. We are about to break into this here very soon. My daughter and I have plans to get in and get her started and try this out. And this one seemed to have really good reviews, and I like the fact that it had the weights, because the weighing really worked for me in the sourdough. So for the regular sourdough, so I'm hoping that's the same case with the gluten-free sourdough, and they had a lot of different bread options. Haven't tried this one, but I'm going to, so stay tuned for the review on this one. Okay, so some other examples of getting recipes from YouTube and deciding that I liked the style of their cooking and wanted to grab books that had a ton of recipes for me to try. Shay Elliott from the Elliott Homestead. I got her family table book. I love this book. It gives me a whole lot of ideas of things to do. I have a bunch of these recipes that I want to try this year, especially now that we're way more adventurous with what we try. But she has so many good things, like a homemade chorizo in here. She has all different levels of stuff. Cucumber mint salad looks delicious. So as the seasons are coming in, this one is one I'm really going to dive into. I have made a couple things out of here that I really like, and I'm just excited to jump in for more. And her recipes on YouTube have been great. So the Elliott Homestead for that. Another one is, I watched the Stivers Homestead. I haven't made a whole bunch of the recipes in this one yet, but there's a few that I really want to try. And I like the fact that it was real home cooking. It's not like, Shay does hers super fancy, which is great. It's beautiful and delicious and nutritious. And the Stivers Homestead, Jen Stivers did this book, and it's a good crossroads in between straight from the farm and then still using a lot of the stuff from the store and so forth. It's a good crossing cookbook, and it has a spot in it for you to write your own recipes and add your own for the last third of the book. Is great. So that was a fun one. And then another one in that category is the Prairie Homestead Cookbook. And I haven't really deep dived into this one yet. However, they have things like sourdough crackers in here. I think there was a pudding recipe in here. How to make cranberry orange soda bread. Beef stews. She has tons of recipes in here, and all different types of things. How to make homemade bacon. And then at the end, she talks about how to render lard and do all of that. So she has a ton of information in this one. This looks delicious to me, butterscotch pudding. So I have a bunch in this one I'm really looking forward to getting. This was gifted to me, and so I'm super excited to deep dive into this cookbook. Mad Hungry I got because Jessica Soward suggested it. It was one of her favorite cookbooks, and so this is another one that I'm going to be working through. There's a lot of real meals with real food, like good nutritious food in here, and it's Mad Hungry, Feeding Men and Boys, and there's a lot of protein inspired, but there's also muffins and things like that in here. So this is another one I'm working through this year. I'm going to do one more I'm working through this year, and then I'm going to move over to another staple. This is new, and it's the Fresh Honey Cookbook. So one of the things that I've really tried to do is replace honey in place of a lot of other things. And I want to try to go through and figure out some great recipes. And they go through, depending on what season you harvest your honey in, what notes are going to be there, possibly with what flowers and pollen they're bringing in. And so it tells you different honeys to use for different recipes for the best flavor. So this was a really cool one. We got this one out in Monterey when we went out there, and it's just the Fresh Honey Cookbook. It has 84 recipes. So I'm excited to try that. This one I've used a ton. I've read a ton for basics, and this has, like, I can't even begin to go over how many. I have no idea how many recipes are in here. I think it has 700. I don't know, something crazy recipes, and it's Nourishing Traditions, and it's the cookbook that challenges politically correct nutrition and the diet dictocrats. And it talks about how to use kale and leeks and lima beans, how to do a rack of lamb and riblets. It really talks all kinds of things in here. It talks sauces, it souffles, and how to cook with rabbit, and granola, and wheat berry casserole, so how to use whole wheat berries and things like that. This book has so much information and how to really work on your gut and how things can help you. And it talks about, in the introduction, it gives you all kinds of information about how the fats work in your body, with the different types of fats, how cholesterol works within your body, and how all these things, why it's important to have certain things in your diet, and not just eat food because you have to eat food, but eat food because it's nourishing your body and giving you really good fuel. So this book I highly suggest. I've read a bunch in here, and I need to go back and I need to read a bunch more and do more, but I'm really excited about this particular book. And I reference it a lot. And if we start to have a health issue, I go back to that and see, okay, so if I need to balance this or I need to balance that, I need to go back into here and read a lot about the sodium and go from there. Now, I have the next categories of books. I have them behind me here. I have preserving, and then I have inspiration. So I wanted to make sure I added in the preserving cookbooks, because I think it's important that when you're preserving, you have stuff on hand that you know how to, if you needed to, how to water bath, can things, and how to do things, and not just rely on having the internet. So I have Back to Basics Cooking, the Complete Guide to Food Preservation. I have tried a few things in here, and I have more recipes that are on the list for this year out of here. I have the Complete Guide to Pressure Canning. I have not done any of the particular ones in here yet. However, I'm going to get to pressure canning. It is on the list. So I'm going to be getting into this and doing pressure canning. I've done water bath canning. I have a pressure canner. I just haven't jumped in yet. And then I have canning and preserving for beginners. This had some really good recipes, some different types of recipes, some mango chutney. I think my husband would love that. So I have this also. And then the Ball Complete Book of Home Preserving, because just going back to the basics and doing the basic ball recipes is a good thing. And they have all kinds of recipes in here, and I am excited to be trying more. And I'll go over later some of the things we're going to try. Pickled Pantry is another one I'm was getting really into pickling. I've curved back on my pickling with doing low sodium, but my husband still loves pickles, and so we will be doing that. My daughter loves kimchi, and so between fermenting and pickling, we're going to be doing all kinds of stuff. So they have recipes for pickled beets, all kinds of things. So we're going to go through here and try recipes in here, and there's really good ones in here. It talks about all different types of carrots and cucumbers and all kinds of things. So the other avenue that I have found for cooking basic meals, I don't always use a recipe. My mom will ask, what are you making for dinner? I have no idea. Well, no, seriously, like, what are you making? I have no idea. Well, aren't you cooking it? Yeah, I'm cooking it, but I have no idea what I'm going to call it. Like, I just don't know what it is. And so going through and looking at what you have, I swear it's like playing Chopped in the kitchen. Chopped was a fun show to watch. All when my daughter was little, loved it, still love it. It gives you ideas on how to think outside the box and how flavor profiles work together. And so I have cookbooks just for inspiration. Some of them I'll probably try some recipes in it. Some of them I may not. And we will go through, and one of the things we're planning on doing this year is as my daughter's doing more of her style cooking and so forth, she wants to try new things. We're going to be trying new recipes consistently. And then when we just have random things in the house and I want to make something different or try an inspired thing, let's go for it. Let's grab something, get some inspiration, and go for it. And so that's what these particular books that I have are for. I have two major ones that I did not grab. So I have two that have been huge for inspiration. I will be trying some of the actual recipes out of here. There's a beet slaw that I'm like dying to try, that we were looking at. And it's two books from Joshua McFadden, and it's 6 seasons and grains for every season. And I got both of these and actually the sourdough cookbook that I love were suggestions by Jill over at Whispering Willow Farm, and she talked about the inspiration in these, and I was looking at them and I decided to go for it, and I'm so thankful that I did. So the grains for every season, we have all kinds of different wheat berries and all different types of grains on hand. Now, again, my daughter's gluten-free, so she's not going to eat a lot of those particular grains. We don't always want to just have bread, right? But there's other ways that grains can be used. In knowing how to use them and how to cook with them, I thought was really important. And so the grains for every season have sections on all kinds of different grains. And then they have ideas on how you can partner things. So like this section is all about rye, using rye wheat berries. It talks to you about the nutritional value of rye, the flavor profile, what it's good for. And then right inside of here, it has a whole section on how to make these bowls and gives you ideas on how to mix different grains with different herbs, a different acid, heat, fat, spice, creaminess, the fruit and vegetable, the crunch factor, and protein, and different tips. And it gives you an idea for using cooked barley, for using bulgur, for using cooked frike, I don't know how to say that word, buckwheat, quinoa, and sprouted farro, and gives you ideas on how to build a bowl. And I thought this was great. It's helping me learn how to pair certain things. It gives me an idea on how to partner the right herb with the right grain, because the grains all taste kind of differently, and how to do that. And then it also goes in and how to use and make crackers, how to make different cabbage rolls. It goes into different types of wheat and using all the different types of wheat. in different ways. So sometimes you're turning it into a bread, sometimes you're just eating it as the grain and cooking it. And so this book has been a wealth of inspiration. And we're going to try some of the recipes in here. But overall, like when I am feeling uninspired to cook anything, this thing goes, oh, I like the idea of this paired with this, and then I do a spin on it. Another one of his was that 6 seasons. And the 6 seasons, you see the different colors here. The 6 seasons, he goes through the vegetables that are growing in these seasons. And he does spring, early summer, midsummer, late summer, fall, and winter. And the different vegetables that grow within that. So like there's a whole section on beets, carrots, celery, fennel, and you have all kinds of recipes in here to inspire you on how to use these. Brussels sprouts, kohlrabi. I don't see kohlrabi in a whole lot of cookbooks, so this is fun that there's kohlrabi in here. How to use rutabagas and turnips and winter squash. They have fava beans and English peas, and there's so many different things in here, and the recipes just look amazing. He also has a whole section in here on how to make all different types of butters and seasoning. So brown butter, pistachio butter, watercress butter, whipped ricotta, how to make different vinaigrettes. Like there's so much information in this book, and it really gets you inspired to use fresh ingredients. And that is what I really like, and how to pair different things together. And you can tell he has a passion for growing things, but also for making delicious food. And it's neat going through here and getting ideas. These 2 books are a little bit more pricey, but they, I think, are worth it. And the recipes are amazing. I'm not going to go into all of these, but these are some other ideas for inspiration, what to do with your greens, different rustic garden books about how to use fresh produce. This one I picked up, and it's The Science of Spice, and it talks about all the different spices and their profiles and kind of how to partner them, what different origins they came from, what areas. So this is the world of South Asia, and kind of the different spices that come in those areas, what to pair with each other. So the first part is about each area: Indonesia, the Philippines, so forth. And then it goes into each spice, like clove, and gives you a breakdown of it, kind of where it's popular, other names it's known as, what part of the plant is used, and so forth. And I thought this was really neat and gives me ideas on what spices I can partner with each other. So this is a fun one. Another great one for inspiration, has a ton of information in it, is the Italian Cooking Encyclopedia. And then of course we have dessert cookbooks and all the craziness, which is great. So we have all the dessert cookbooks. We have cookbooks to help give some ideas on cooking for a diabetic. We have all kinds of different things that kind of whatever catches our fancy. I started to, if I really like a recipe, I have a cookbook for our family favorites. So I mean, not a cookbook, a recipe box. So I can pop them in here if I really, really like them and I don't want to go hunt it down and try to find it. It's here. And then the other thing I did was if I tweak a recipe and I change it to make it my own, I make a card for that. I did the same thing for preserving recipes. There are some recipes that I have followed from Facebook recipes or from YouTube videos and things like that. And so I write those out and I put them in here, and then I reference where I got them from. Like the sweet onion jam recipe is from that 1870s homestead, along with the pickled red onions and so forth. So I will put those in here, and this is going to be an ever-growing project as we go through and learn, because this is a journey. It's not, there's not a, I don't feel like there's really an ending point until you're dead and gone. You're going to continually grow on this journey. So if I had to, I couldn't even suggest a top 5, but if you're into sourdough, that sourdough made simple one is amazing. If you're really trying to get a lot of information about nutrition, the Nourishing Traditions is a great book. If you are trying to cook with homemade whole grains like wheat berries and things like that, maybe that whole grain book would be a good one for you. Handmade is another great spot to start with, because if you start with replacing things you buy from the store all the time, that's going to be the most effective thing to start with. So for us, we don't buy bread anymore. It's actually been a little while since I've even made bread, and so I need to start making it again. But if we're going to eat bread, we're going to make the bread, because it's simple enough to do, and you're getting way more nutrients in it, and you're not getting all the preservatives in it. Doing homemade salad dressings. Salad dressings have so much sodium. Finding a way to make homemade salad dressings in a way that you really like, that maybe aren't going to last on the shelf for a long time, but you make small quantities at a time. Super great. Like, there's so many things that you can replace and start cooking from home, and find something that triggers a passion in you that you really like, and then move from there. Bread was a big one. I don't necessarily love the taste of cheap white bread unless it's with a peanut butter jelly sandwich. I love the taste of rye bread, right? Having some chocolate chip bread, that's amazing after dinner or with your coffee or whatever. Like, having something that you can not buy easily at the store that isn't going to have that same flavor is really, I think, an important thing to start with. So pick an area, start with that, and then get inspired from there. And it is hard when you're cooking from home all the time. You get in a rut, like trying to figure out what it is that you are want to make, and having a wide set of seasonings, array of seasonings, a set of flavor profiles that you go with. Don't just have all the Italian seasonings. Have Italian, and have Mexican, have Thai, have Korean, have all kinds of different seasonings, right? And be able to play it up, and just make sure you have fresh produce on hand as much as possible. And you can mix those up between a soup and a stir fry, make anything. But get inspired, have some fun. Don't be over paranoid over blowing it. If you blow it, you blow it. But I would err on the side of under salting and under sweetening, and then add to it if you need to. I think the biggest thing I have an issue with is adding the right acid in. I'll go too sweet, too sour, too something, like too creamy, and my husband's like, you need to add lemon juice or some apple cider vinegar or something to it to cut the sweetness or the creaminess. Or on the other side, I need to add something to it to cut the acid. And so finding that balance for me has been the biggest struggle, and that's just from trial and error. My husband has a great taste bud for it, so I just let him help me out with that, and I'm learning as I go. So get in the kitchen, get inspired. I'd love to know what your favorite cookbooks are, what style of cooking that cookbook is great for, and what I can add to my collection. I'll talk to you guys on the next video, and have fun getting your hands dirty in the kitchen.